Good afternoon, everyone. James Hicks here from Hicks New Media and Infotainment News. Today, great show. Going to be some entertaining conversation. Going to be some folks that are passionate about what they do, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. Behind the curtain, I am pleased to be joined by two amazing photographers. Each one looks through the lens in their own different perspective, in their own unique way. Today we're going to spend a little time talking about their individual crafts and what drives them, talk about how they got started, gather some tips, maybe some best practices, and really maybe even get some perspective that they can share for us novices in terms of how we can make our photographs look better as well. Nick Hrehor, FIAWEC and SROGT. What that stands for, I don't know, but he's going to tell us. But he is an accredited automotive and motorsport photographer based out of Austin, Texas. Darryl hails from Philadelphia and is a Boxing Writers Association of America award winner. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nick Hrehor and Darryl Cobb. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Doing well, sir.
Darryl, you know, you were like right on time, man. We shoot at 12, and you showed up at 12:02. But I see you though, man. You doing all right? Oh, and you on mute too, brother. You on mute. Oh my goodness. You gonna turn this into a comedy show? No.
I might just do that. You never know.
There we go.
We have a very where my studio is.
Yeah.
It's very congested because looks like there was an outreach. Where I'm at is in the heart of the opiate epidemic. So it looks like a church was giving out meals today. Knowing that it happens on Sunday, so that created a lot of traffic for me.
No worries, no worries. Real life is happening. Things are happening all over the place. So you got to bend and be flexible. So, but thank you guys both for taking some time to join us today. My idea is just to sit here and talk to you guys about what it is you do, right? Your craft. I know your work. And it's fantastic from both perspectives. I'm not even going to pretend I'm anywhere near the skill, and I know there are folks that are watching that want to probably understand what it is that you do as well. Let me start with you, Nick. Talk to us a little bit about what some of those acronyms are that I read off: FIA, WEC, SRO, and things of that nature. Talk to us a little bit about that, brother.
Yeah, man, for sure. So the FIA is a governing body based out of France. It roughly translates to Federation of International Auto Racing. So they're the governing body that handles the WEC, which is the World Endurance Championship. So earlier this year, the WEC made a stop in Austin. I gained accreditation for it and became a FIA accredited photographer. So what that means is kind of getting my foot in the door to be able to look at doing more endurance races or bigger events because I've had the credentials. Actually, I still have the credential hanging off of one of the champagne bottles from the race. And then SRO is a group here in the United States that sponsors a GT racing series. So they are a motorsport group that's also an auto dealership. They own this entire world of racing. They're actually here at Circuit of the Americas this weekend. However, it is closed to non-full-time photographers and spectators. And so I'm not a full-time because I'd have to be linked up with the full organization. And I didn't have the time. And with COVID, there was no way to be able to sync up that way. So unfortunately, I couldn't go. Otherwise, I'd probably be there instead of right here. But you know, it is what it is. So those are two of the series that I've officially shot for, and hopefully, you know, just the beginning of many more.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So your motorsports, is it mainly cars, or do you do cycles as well? I mean, what's that whole gamut of your portfolio look like in terms of what you shoot?
So mostly cars. Specifically around racing, but I do still enjoy, cars and coffee. Seeing somebody who's got a really cool build, muscle cars, imports, German, you name it. Like if it's got four wheels and a motor, I'm likely to be interested. Not that I don't like motorcycles, but my passion has always been in automotive motorsport. So I would love the opportunity to shoot motorcycles. I just haven't had the ability to do so yet.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Cobb, you're a little different. You're you're definitely on the action side, right? Well, you're both on the action side, but you're a little more on the contact side of sports photography. Talk to us a little bit about your focus in that perspective.
Believe it or not, the action to me is secondary. The
Hmm.
primary mission is showing the athletes as living, breathing, three-dimensional human beings who just happen to put it all in the line in a squared circle.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to focus on the drama of the moment, the real struggle between two athletes in the ring, and I try to bring life to that. So those are memorable moments for just not just the people watching, but for the athletes themselves.
And I will take that and I will dive into a little bit deeper because looking at your photography, looking at your portfolio, I have noticed that it's not always just about that punch or it's not always about that that action piece that's happening inside the ring, but you really do focus on the eyes. You focus on the actual. You try to capture that personality of the athlete in your photography. You use a lot of good shadowing and contrast in your black and white photos that you use. So it's good. It's good to hear you say that because I can definitely see that in the work that you produce. And and Nick, definitely your photos. I'm looking at those. Your utilization of shutter speeds and aperture rates, being able to capture movement, being able to slow down someone that's going 200 miles an hour on a track, and you're able to show just kind of that whole dynamic aspect. So I love what each of you guys do. Uh, Daryl, let me ask you, what type of camera do you shoot with?
I shoot with a couple. Uh, my main body is a Nikon D4, and then my two backup bodies are a Nikon D3 and a Nikon D7100.
Okay, okay. I think I got some Nikon guys here.
I think so.
I know. I see you down there smiling, Nick. Talk to us. What's in your toolkit, brother?
So the primary is a Nikon D500, and then the backup is a Nikon D7200. So not too terribly different from Darryl, just in mostly the app or the sensor size. So I use only crop sensors, mostly because it fit within the budget that I can actually afford to be able to shoot with. And having that crop sensor gives me a little extra reach at the track when I need it. Since you apply that crop factor to your zoom, so I can get a little bit more length out of it. Eventually, the goal would be to go full frame, but with prices the way they are, I mean, I'm looking at two bodies being used at least $2,000 to $3,000 depending on what I go with. It's not quite in the cards at the moment, but yeah, that's kind of what I've got at the moment.
All right. So I got two Nikon guys. I'm a Sony man at heart. You guys obviously are DSLR versus mirrorless too. Talk to me about how that decision, if that's a conscious decision, or are you eventually looking at moving into the mirrorless world?
Well, for me, when I started shooting boxing or even photography, period, there was no mirrorless cameras.
Yeah.
Unless you were talking about the point and shoots. So my choice was based on did I want to shoot stills or shoot video. As for mirrorless, my mentor Dave Spagnolo, when it comes to boxing, he's actually already made the jump. One of the greatest boxing photographers out of Japan, Naoki, has made the jump, and he's an ambassador. So mirrorless is definitely something I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's something that I've considered as well. It's definitely less proven in the motorsport world. I see a lot of people walking around with a lot of the Sony A7 and A9s.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely see it a lot at NFL. If you look at the NFL sideline or NBA, you'll see a lot of those. It's good because the focus tracking on a lot of those devices is really good for following faces. And you can really use that facial awareness feature to be able to follow people. You can't really do that quite as well with a car, so you're still going to have to manually focus and manually track your subject and make sure you're framing it the right way. Canon has made a huge jump in that realm with the release of the is it the R5 and the R6, and those look very promising. But I don't know anybody's firsthand used them within motorsport. So I think the DSLR still has a number of years in that realm before it is probably supplanted. But I mean, every guy that I know that I've shot with has shot on a standard DSLR, and the pros that I look up to still use the DSLR. Doesn't necessarily make one better than the other, though.
And honestly, I'm thinking, go ahead.
Honestly, I'm not looking at mirrorless for boxing. Because I'm actually pretty fine with a DSLR there. I'm actually looking at more of a mirrorless for studio work and maybe events.
Okay. And I'm thinking even just from a inventory perspective, right? There's definitely more lenses and more options available for your traditional DSLRs as there are for mirrorless. And then, as Nick was kind of saying, pricing starts going in a definite hockey stick when you start looking at lower focal points and things like that. So I've had a number of cameras. I saw a comment here from Corey Sanders talking about Canon versus Sony and Nikon. I've had some Nikons before too, but right now I'm sticking with the little pocket mirrorless Sony just to try to do what I do. But let me ask you something, Darryl. You talked a little bit about studio work as opposed to just being on the side of the ring, and you've got some excellent collections of photographs as well. Talk to us about kind of what that jump has been, or has that been a switch, right, in terms of going and photographing action sports to doing more studio work with models and things like that?
Well, I started doing studio work because boxing is so fast, and if you're not thinking fast, you can't really compose shots because you'll miss opportunities. You're 3 minutes of totally zoned in looking for fleeting moments. So in order to get better at my boxing photography, I had to slow the process way down. And that's how I started doing studio work, because it's as slow as you need it to be and you're in control of your space entirely.
Okay. And are all of your shots shot within your studio, or do you? Or I haven't seen any like where you go on site. I know it's pretty tough right now with COVID and things of that nature. But I'm just wondering, do you have a specific style? Do you have a specific genre? Do you have a specific theme when you have a model, or do you work individually with whoever you're shooting?
Well, as you've probably seen from my studio website or Instagram page, it's all black and white.
Yeah.
And that's what I gear towards. And I do some stuff on location. I pick certain spots in Center City, which is the downtown area of Philadelphia. And then I have a nice little place outside my studio. But that's normally what I gravitate to. Is I try to take the attitude of the model and really merge that to what I'm shooting. Photographers I look up to are like Peter Lindbergh, Albert Watson, Dallas J. Logan. He shoots out of California. These are great photographers that influence my work heavily. Howard Schatz is another one. So if you want to know more about my work, those are 4 guys you can actually look to.
Okay. Just taking a look at that portfolio, which is amazing. Nick, talk to us a little bit about your work. I've got your page up here as well. And again, so you said literally right now you're watching something right now. You got one eye on the camera here and one eye on probably the television. What's happening right now that's got you multitasking?
So this weekend, if you click on that photo right there that you got your mouse on, so that is one of the Toyota hybrid hypercars that's currently racing at the 24-hour of Le Mans in Le Mans, France. So normally every year, it's the first or second weekend of June. COVID has delayed it for the second time in the 98 years that they've been running this race to a different date. And so it's currently going on. They're in their night stint at the moment. And I've been up since 7:30 Central watching the race. I will probably watch 16, 17 hours of the entire race. It'll end at 7:30 Central tomorrow morning, and I will watch the end of the race. So to me, it's one of the biggest, greatest spectacles in motorsport right alongside the Indy 500. So it's one of those bucket list items that I would love to have an opportunity not only to go to, but of course to photograph at.
Definitely. So you're watching the event right now, but you're not necessarily watching it as kind of as a spectator, as kind of maybe the layman, I would say me, but you're watching it again, looking at it from your view, from your lens, figuring out how would I capture this particular moment and things of that nature, probably, right? So it's a little stressful for you right now.
A little bit. I think it's kind of like how I view with music, being a musician as well, is I take kind of a analytical approach to a lot of things that I see. So I'm looking at how mostly what I'm watching is other than the entertainment aspect, which is when I'm not there, that's a huge priority. I want to be entertained. I'm looking for things like, how is the light playing across the track? Where are the negative spaces? Where do the cars look big? Where do they look small? Where are areas of action? And then how can I take that and then translate it to just other things that I'm doing? Because the one thing that I wouldn't say I've always struggled with, but I definitely struggle with a lot, was how do I frame a shot using the natural elements that's there? Because at a racetrack, you have porta potties, and you have people and food stands, and you have trucks all over the place, and it's like, how do you make that look good? You know, it doesn't look good if you have a car and then you see a row of 20 porta johns in the background. You know, it doesn't look that great. So how can I take that same scene and suddenly make it appealing, if that makes sense? So I try to look at it like that as the secondary thing. For this weekend, it's mostly entertainment, to be honest, because I just love racing, but I do try to find those things here and there.
That's interesting. And Darryl, I'm going to ask you kind of the same type of question and ask your response, because again, Nick, you're at the race, you've got half a second or wherever as the cars are going around the track. So again, you've got to think very quickly about framing that shot. And Darryl, you were saying you've got 3 minutes. You've got the length of a round, right, to try to capture all of that excitement, all of that activity in a handful of shots. What goes through your thought process again as you're making sure you get that winning shot, right? Is it the one right before the heavy hit, the one at the knockdown? Is it, what goes into your thought process as you lift the lens up?
Honestly, the thing that goes to my thought process the most is, please do not trip any of the fighters.
that would be a bad day, man. That would be. Yeah.
That happened at a Triple G fight, and I got so many text messages like, "Was that you?" Like, no, I'm way in the stands. I was nowhere near that. But when you just try to follow the action and you try to anticipate, it's almost like being a fighter, because you have to anticipate the shot. If you see the shot in frame, you missed it, no matter how fast your reaction time is. So you got to actually almost predetermine when that shot's going to land. And you can only do that by knowing the people in the ring, or just knowing boxing in general. So I'm fortunate enough to lean on a lot of people who have sat with me, and I've spent some time in gyms just to really get that timing down.
Okay. It almost makes me wonder, again, now that we got the advantage of digital photography, is it easier now because you can just push the shutter button and you can capture multiple frames, at a burst, as opposed to back in the day when folks were using film, right? You had that one shot and you had to get it. 70% of the time there was some blur to it, but I almost wonder, is it easier now to do what it is that you guys do versus what you think some of the heritage folks are?
Yes and no, because for one, during the film days, there was things called motor drives, so they were able to burst off 5 and 6 shots per second, which was the camera I started out with, a Nikon D80, was only 3 shots per second. Is it easier? Yes. Is it harder to make something more memorable? Yes, because we all remember Neil Leifer's shot with Ali over Liston.
Yeah.
But today, since so many things are good, it's very hard to make a standout shot that'll be iconic.
That's an interesting point, Nick. What are your thoughts? That's really interesting, and I love how you bring it home with that shot, because everyone knows that shot, right? Everyone knows I have it in my art.com actually wish list to actually get that to put on my wall, so I know that shot. Nick, what are your thoughts about that?
I think I definitely have to agree with Darryl on this. I mean, I didn't start shooting on film. I started shooting years ago using a digital SLR that my mom had, and it was shooting my sister playing soccer and things like that. And then in the more recent years, upgrading equipment and being able to do more, because I kind of reignited the passion only a number of years ago. So really just kind of getting back in and relearning. There's a certain feeling with film that can't really be replicated. There's a lot of iconic images in the 70s and 80s of Formula One back when, as they say, the racing was dangerous and the sex was safe. There's these iconic images of
put that on a t-shirt, brother. I need you to put that on a t-shirt. We'll buy it. Okay.
Exactly. And there's these images of these cars that have a certain look to them. It was a very, very dirty time. There's images of like Mario Andretti after the Indy 500 when he won, and everything out under his goggles is black from all of the tire rubber hitting his face and the soot and the exhaust, and everything here is just, pasty white. It looks like he's just gotten a massive sunburn.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, it's easier for more people to get into it, for sure. If you go look at, you can Google like Japanese Grand Prix and look at the Japanese Grand Prix, and anybody's out there with a 500 millimeter lens and a Nikon D5 or a Canon 1DX Mark II, and they're taking photos. And so anybody can take a photo, but it really takes somebody who understands what they're doing to create either art or to create the shot. It's not just about getting a shot; it's getting the shot.
That's beautiful, because that's literally where I wanted to go and wanted to hear, because you guys are honing your craft each time, right? Again, someone like me or an amateur or someone just picking up a camera at Best Buy, we're just out there taking the weekend warrior shots. We go on the trip. Hey, let me just take a shot of the mountains, put a couple of filters on it, think it looks great, right? But you guys you're designing and trying to portray reality onto a digital format or onto a format, so someone actually can. And this is just my thoughts. Someone can live through your experience, what you capture. You're very minimalist in what you do, Darryl. You shoot mainly black and white. You can't mess with that a whole lot, right? I mean that's just literally what you see, and it's very clean. Nick, the stuff that you shoot is very, I'm gonna say, high contrast, right? I mean, well, I think it's just because of the atmosphere and the environment, right? A lot of colors and things like that, right? So you got a lot of yellows and reds. So you pull that in, but you show the movement. Again, someone going 200 miles an hour, however fast around the track, but very, very minimalistic, very simple. Again, bringing the layman into your experience. So while again, we are trying to do skin toning, highlights, and fancy filters to try to make our pictures look whatever better, but and you guys who are honing the craft, the professionals, are actually going for the simplistic, look at this for what it's worth and enjoy it. That's an interesting dynamic that I don't think folks really understand and adhere to a lot, right? We're always trying to improve on it. You're trying to show the minimalistic value of reality.
There's a reason for that. I met you during when Silicon Valley released their episode regarding blacks in Silicon Valley. That's how far we go back.
Way before the gray hair, brother. Way
before when I was a young guy working writing for a website called Tech Help Reviewing Cell Phones. The problem with photography is that yes, I'm old. Yeah. The problem with photography is they push gear first. They talk about gear first, they talk about setting second, and they don't care about the subject. That's the wrong order. Outcast says you got to go to work, put it down, and then get paid.
Ooh, there it is right there.
So
there's the tagline right there.
So what you need to do is one of the first things I did when I started seeing my work improve is I started studying great photographers, which is why you hear me mention these photographers, Al Bello, Neil Leifer, Naoko Fukuda, because to be great, you got to study great people. Forget settings. Look at what these images look like. Look at what they're capturing. And there's not one setting mentioned. So you got to understand your subject matter. Get into it, make it mean something. Because if you're just putting a bunch of settings on an image, you don't really care. And then why should a viewer?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I have to kind of echo what he's saying there. I think one of the things that I definitely got caught up with it at the beginning was these general rules of thumb about how you're supposed to photograph automotive related items. And so there's, rules like, always shoot incredibly fast when the car is coming towards you, or shoot incredibly slow when the car is coming by you, or you always have to shoot wide open, or you always have to shoot, and by wide open I mean the widest aperture you can get, things like that. And you do get caught up in the specs of it, and there's a misconception, and I think it translates to pretty much anything, music, art, everything is, you have to have the best equipment to be able to do what you do. Just thinking about music, take John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, and you put that guy on any drum kit and he's going to sound exactly like John Bonham. It's not the gear that makes the sound, it's the person behind it. It's the bolt that's loose behind everything. So like when I look at it and I look at the photographers that I look up to, one of my buddies, Art Vega up in Dallas, Jamie Price, who is an amazing photographer out of North Carolina, Darren Heath out of New Zealand. He's an English photographer but lives in New Zealand. These guys, they take motorsport and they turn it into art, and it's 100% the subject first, and then they always include their EXFI data so people can look at it. And I do the same thing, but I don't do it so people can imitate the shot. I do it because I forget what I was doing at that time, and sometimes I like to have a reference material to go back to and be like, what did I do to do that? It doesn't matter what camera or anything like that you use. You could take a photo with an iPhone and could make $1 billion off of it, or you could spend $1 billion on equipment and make $1 off of selling something. So it's very interesting, that dynamic.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that too. I mean, because since we were having this discussion, do those settings, and we geek out, right? We're technologists, we're engineers, we do other things as well, but putting those settings, ISO numbers, things of that nature on your shots, do you do that for the layman? Do you do that for other folks in the trade and the craft? But I think you guys kind of answered it, saying it's really irrelevant to the folks who know, because if you're inside, right, if you're in the craft, if you're in the industry, you understand what goes on behind the scenes. But it's almost more for either one, memory retention, right, trying to remember what you did, or for the folks that are outside, just so they can see that I know what I'm doing and this is how I set up this shot, kind of thing.
I don't post exif data, and for one, I just don't remember to do so. I never think about it. Second, I can give you the exact settings I shot a photograph at. Your shot is not going to come out that way. Lighting changes from venue to venue, situation to situation. Sometimes day to day. For instance, there's a venue that's very popular in Philadelphia, 2300 Arena. If you're a wrestling fan, it's the old ECW Arena. One day the lights were warm temperature and warm intensity. I can actually shoot at, let's say, 1600 ISO. Next thing, they made a light change. I'm shooting at 4000 ISO. So you really don't know. By giving you the settings, you can't duplicate what I'm doing. Instead of asking me my settings, why don't you ask me my setting and what was my goal?
What was my goal? There you go. Again, drawing on creating the experience as opposed to just creating a blueprint, right? That's probably not going to be different for every architect that's out there trying to create something. So make it more personal as opposed to technical.
And also, it's more so understanding the why instead of the what. The why is more important than the what. If you understand the why, you'll answer the what in any situation you're at.
Interesting. Your guys, both of you have the majority of what I see your collection, your portfolios on Instagram right now, and in the show notes, I'll make sure to include links to these so folks can see those. From a monetization perspective, outside of your affiliations and your accreditations, do you have a portfolio or a studio where you're selling your art?
For me, no. Mostly because what I do with my photography is for those who would like to have something, whether it's something that they want to download or something that they want to have printed. I like to be able to offer the gift of photography and make something memorable for that person that actually relates to themselves. So finding an image of their favorite driver or their favorite sequence of turns or things like that to be able to give them something like that. I don't monetize my photos because the last time I took a part of my career and applied money to it when it was a passion, I lost the passion. And so I haven't wanted to do that yet, specifically because that happened. I used to teach middle school and high school percussion. And when I added the money value to it and then there became a cost motivator, I lost the passion for what I had, and it became about the dollars per minute versus the smiles per dollar sort of a thing. And I kind of ruined that. And so with this, because I don't need it to supplement my income, I can enjoy myself and I can actually go out and try to create art, because I can't draw to save my life. But occasionally I can press that shutter and I can get a really, really amazing image that I'm very happy with, and it makes all of those hours worth it. To go out for a 6-hour endurance race, if I can come home with one amazing image that when I look at it says, you do know what you're doing, that's all it matters to me.
For boxing, I'm normally hired by a promoter or a publication. So that's how I personally monetize that. I much rather do that than having to do day-to-day sales, because what happens is when it's your dime, it's your time. So what I've come to find out is more customers will actually like to hire me to imitate work that is opposite of what I do, based on the work I do, which I think is interesting. So I pretty much leave my my commerce to my boxing work, and individual pieces of that work. You can enjoy it, but I don't really make a point to sell it. However, I am in the process of putting a book together, seeing how that works.
You had a book, Darryl. You had a coffee table style book at one time.
No, that's my portfolio.
Okay. Well, talk to me. How can someone get a copy of that? I mean, you showed pictures of it. You know, I'm trying to make you a couple of dollars here, man.
I understand, but that is what I would take to if I was to be bidding on a job.
Okay.
So when you walk into the door, or you walk into my studio, and you say, well, okay, well, we heard your pitch. What's the evidence of what you can do?
Yeah.
And then I'll lay that out for them. I got that from the modeling world.
Okay.
Because normally that's how they'll do business. They'll take their book from agency to agency. So I decided to be different and have a book for when I talk to people about my boxing photography.
I love that. And I like the synergy amongst what both of you said as well. You're doing what you do because you love doing it. When you bring in external factors, monetization, financial, those kinds of things, there's a chance that you can lose that drive, lose that passion. And what you said, Nick, really resonates with me. I mean, the whole idea of the only blessing for me out of COVID has been I've been able to lock down and get ITN Infotainment News Live up and running more effectively than I have over the past 10 years. I mean, it's been more of a passion, and now it's become more of a forefront. But don't do it for the monetization. I don't do it for the Google subscribers or whatever the case, or the views. I do it because I get a chance to talk to folks like you guys. Darryl, I haven't seen you like you said since look, man,
The
it's been
NOAC
a
demo.
decade. Right. Oh my God. So me having the opportunity to sit and talk with folks like this from Philadelphia, from Austin, I'm in Northern California, just have these experiences. That's what it's all about, and having these interesting conversations. It's more selfish for me because I learn from you guys, and everything that you just both said, I'm going to digest and utilize, hopefully make myself better, and hopefully the viewers and the listeners take a snippet of what you have said as well, and can grow and find some positivity, because 2020 has been a trip, right? And we all need some positivity. So you two gentlemen are definitely focused on the right things. Let me ask each of you, for us novices, us amateurs in photography, do you have a best practice or a tip that we could use when we go out with our Sony, Canon, Nikon, Android, iOS device or whatever, trying to get that great family photo? How do we get all the kids to smile? How do we get the dog to stop barking? How do I get that good shot? How do I?
I don't know
Put you both
about
on the
that
scene. I'll put you on the scene.
I don't know how you would do that, because I really don't do family photos. However, I will say the key to getting anybody to look at you is to give them a moment of focus and a moment of attention. Don't be all in your camera. Don't be looking at your lights. Don't pay attention to shoot the subject. The more attention you give the subject, the more attention the subject will give your camera.
Yeah, that's
Again, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the roles of kind of being a photographer in a way that I've learned from really trying to imitate the people that I look up to and aspire to work alongside. Is it's your job to be a part of the moment and to capture those things, but your job is not to be that moment. And there's one thing that I see, and I saw it when I shot this year, of groupings of people. You had the guys who had been there and they've been doing it, and everything was old hat, and it was just them going about their business. There was guys like me, with a little bit newer to the scene, still trying to get the sea legs under us, and so you didn't quite always know where to be at the right point in time. And then you had the people who had no idea, and they got in the way, and it was all about them. I need to get this shot. I need to do this. It's your job to be able to go and do that. So Darryl's right. Find that focus point, be able to draw something to it, make yourself, mold into everything rather than be the only thing. And you can really come up with amazing photos, and you can catch a lot of amazing moments that you would never otherwise have, because too many times things are scripted and you really want to get that emotion.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard to do that if everybody looks at you and you're waving your hands like, I'm the photographer, look at me. That can be really tough.
Yeah.
And also, I find the biggest thing with novices is that they'll be so confident in their equipment that they don't forget their equipment. So what I would say is just really understand your camera, know what it can do, know what it can't do, and make it so it's an extension of yourself. It's no more than a tool. You don't hear carpenters going on and on about their hammers or their screwdrivers. They could pick it up and they could seamlessly wield magic with it. You got to do that with your camera.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, you basically got to take your stuff, and you got to know every button, every function, every feature. You should be able, what do they do in the military, right? You have to be able to field strip a rifle and assemble it blindfolded. You almost kind of have to be able to do the same thing with your camera. And that was something again, to go back to music, being a musician, took that from, how do I, play the drums? I can play them completely blindfolded. I know where everything is on my drum set at any point in time. Same thing with the camera. I can pick up any Nikon camera and I know 90% of the layout of that camera just from already using it. And I can take just as good of a photo on a D7200 or a D3200 or whatever it is that's 10 years old as I can a brand new camera. It's all about what I'm doing at the end of the day. Because
definitely for boxing, like I said, you got that 3 minutes. You can't take your eye off the subject. So you're having to do things while looking through the viewfinder. while you're framing the shot, you still got to make changes right from there. So you don't have time to sit there and figure it out. And plus, the more you know your equipment, the more you're ready to handle something going wrong.
I like that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't go in half baked in a sense, right? Don't go in half assed. Actually, if you're gonna drop some dollars and get some equipment, go ahead and read the manual.
And he's right. You know, you want to be prepared for that. I just did. You know, when I was shooting a wedding 2 weeks ago for a coworker, and I'm looking through the viewfinder, and all of a sudden this flashing thing popped up in it, and I was like, "What is that?" And it was a card read error on my secondary card, and so I just knew the easiest way for me to do it was because I was running dual cards, I could pop that bay open. I pulled out that card and I shoved it back in again just to see what it would do, and it immediately reset itself, and it was just, it had a little dust on one of the pins, and that was all that. I mean, it was like that moment of panic, but it was a real quick pop open the door, shove the card, pop the door back, good to go. But I had to, I mean, if I was no idea what was going on, that could have been like, well, sorry. Yeah. And this was before the ceremony even happened, you know?
Oh,
so
wow. It's
like, imagine being hired to do that, and then you come back like, sorry, my equipment didn't do.
I got no pictures.
Exactly.
Now that's something else that's very important. Wow. And I would like people to know, people who like your photos don't care how you did it. They don't care if it's filmed, doesn't care if it was shot with a 40,000 medium format camera, it was shot with, they don't care. If they like the photo, they like the photo. So stop leading with your equipment and lead with your art, lead with your vision. So no matter what you're shooting with, lead with that instead of, I spent X amount of dollars on.
I will
the latest and greatest, the latest and greatest red or whatever camera that's out there.
Because 9 times out of 10, they don't know what you're talking about. We know what we're talking about because this is what we do. But the person that you took the picture of, if it's blurry, they don't care if it cost you 40 grand to take a blurry photo. Their photo's blurry, and the person with the iPhone took a better photo. They look at you like an idiot.
Mm-hmm. I paid for you, and when my cousin over here took a picture with a $200 camera phone. Yeah, that's good stuff. Gentlemen, talk to me about what's next for you guys. Tell me about what's next, how folks can get in contact with you if they want to see some of your art. I know I already put up the Instagram feeds, but if you want to read those off, and if you got any events coming up, I know it's still COVID, so you probably can't go out and do a whole lot, but if you mask up, you can go out there and do something. Let me start with you, Nick.
Probably the easiest way is just through the Instagram page. So that's my last name pronounced Hrehor, so N Hrehor Photo, or NHREHOR.photo. Instagram and Facebook, probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Right now, just trying to make it through the year and wait for kind of a reset on when we can start to go back to the track again and shoot a lot more. It's right now, I kind of funny, kind of like Darryl was saying earlier, you make a little bit more money from the thing that you don't necessarily focus on versus the thing you are focused on. So I've made more money this year doing weddings and taking photos at coffee shops than I have actually taking photos of race cars. But I'm just kind of looking for things that are fun, that I can enjoy, that I can challenge myself with right now, so that I can take those things and, learning from taking photos at a wedding to maybe take a better photo of a pit crew at a race, or to frame a shot a little bit better and just make sure I'm more cognizant of my background. So really, really working on that. And then kind of taking some time to experiment with things. One thing I've always wanted to do is do some long exposure night sky photos. So maybe going out and finding a place to take a nice wide angle of the stars, just to have some fun, and really, really challenge myself with the equipment that I have, and get to know those things a little bit better.
I like it. Honing your skills, working on your craft, and still stretching yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And actually, one more note I'd like to say outside of that.
Yeah.
Learning Lightroom even more effectively and becoming more versed in how to edit appropriately, rather than just applying a mass filter to everything and being done with it. That is my number one struggle is editing a photo to give it the look that I want, because you can very, very easily ruin a photo by just relying on presets and not understanding how it works. And so I spend so much time in Lightroom purposely screwing up photos just to figure out what happens, because I can reset that at the end of the day. Memory is cheap, so use it, you know?
That's true. We can have a whole nother show about that too, because I'm a Creative Cloud subscriber, and yeah, I've way over saturated and look, I've done some fake HDR stuff, and it looked like I was taking the picture off of Mars or something. So we can have that conversation as well by ourselves. Mr. Cobb, what about you, sir?
And just a note, I'm a Capture One guy.
So the two Nikon guys, they're I was looking for some type of difference there. There we go.
There we go.
What's next for me? Well, easy way to reach me on Instagram at Darryl Cobb, which is my boxing work, and at Studio by DC is my studio work and fashion work and modeling work. What's next for me? I am waiting to hear back regarding an artist residency here in Philadelphia. I applied for that, and hopefully that will start my large format project, where I'll be shooting on a 4x5 film. So while everybody's trying to go forward, I'm going backwards.
I love that.
I've always been enchanted by 4x5s, 8x10s, and from my research, the 4x5 is the most accessible with getting development done and finding equipment for. So that's where I'm starting.
Man, I wish you success with that. That's going to be an interesting project, and definitely keep us informed with that. I'll be looking on the site for when those come out, for sure. Gentlemen, I must say, I will selfishly say I learned more from you than you probably disseminated out, and you may have gained. So for your time, I appreciate it. Thank you for the information. I thank you for sharing a little bit about your craft, and the fact that you are serious professionals in terms of what you do and what you put out, and you care, again, not about the device, the piece of equipment that's in your hand, but again, what the end result is going to be. You care about the model or the driver or the scene, and making sure that you capture that effectively. So that being said, again, thank you guys for your time, and I look forward to talking to you soon. You guys be well.
Sounds great.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely great. Have a good day.